Welcome. I am your host, Mina Hernandez, and with me is Eileen Radin, a parent education expert who has worked in the field for over 20 years. Eileen?
Thanks, Mina. In this program, we'll look at some of the primary issues parents face in raising their children. Parenting is a skill, and like all skills, it is acquired and can be developed and improved. The children on our program are 5-year-olds, but as we know, many of the ideas that apply to young children are applicable to children of any age. The subject of today's program is how to increase your child's self-esteem. Parents do many things in positive or negative ways to shape a child's ideas, thoughts, perceptions, and self-image. Mina?
Let's look at a scene in which a parent makes a decision that will affect his child's self-esteem. Think about what you would do if you were in this situation.
Come on, son. We don't want you to be late for school, me to be late for work. Got a big meeting this morning. Amani, how many times have I showed you how to dress? Look at you, you look just like a slob. Now tie your shoes, fix your shirt, go ahead, tuck it in. What will your teachers think about you?
What you doing?
Look, I want you to go to your room and fix yourself, okay? You got 3 minutes. Hustle it up.
Amani didn't quite get his clothes on right. His father, Russell, was frustrated because he was worried about being late for work. Think about the following questions. How did Russell's attitudes and feelings affect his son, Amani? What would you have done if this was your child? Let's begin with the first question. How did Russell's actions affect his son, Amani? And how did Amani feel?
He felt sad, and he was hurt when his dad called him a slut.
He did his best to dress himself. He should have been encouraged for the effort, right?
Okay, that's good. Now, why exactly did Amani feel sad, and what could have Russell done differently?
Russell, I don't think it's a good idea to call your kid a slob, you know? I mean, that's kind of cold, don't you think? Well, I'm talking now, and we'll disagree later. You get up, just like everybody else, a little bit earlier. Dress the kid.
Earlier? I mean, how early should I be getting up? Look, I'm already up at 6 as it is. You know, I'm getting his lunch together, getting us some breakfast, getting ready for work. Is it too much to expect him just to be able to put on his own clothes?
Hold on, coming.
If you're in such a hurry, why don't you just dress Amani yourself? That way he'd look exactly like you want him to look.
You know, I usually do dress him, but I thought it would be a good idea if he learned how to dress himself. You know, sometimes he's got to do that, you know, and to dress himself properly.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with setting high expectations for your children. You know, how else are they going to learn? If you don't set high expectations and high standards, then children don't achieve anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
The boy's got to be pushed to be excel. That's why he needs to learn this early in life.
I don't really think Russell was even mad at Amani. I just think that maybe he was frustrated with the situation because he was in a hurry for work or for the meeting.
Oh, yes. And often a child can't distinguish between a parent's disappointment or frustration and actual anger. I agree we need to encourage children to excel. The problem is the child may already be performing at a level appropriate for a 5-year-old. And he shouldn't be expected to perform like an adult. We want to encourage our children to take initiative and be self-reliant, but name-calling or putting a negative label on a child discourages initiative.
Anybody else? Okay. Here you go.
Let me say something. A parent should appreciate a child's efforts. And, you know, you can only expect so much from a 5-year-old. If Amani were my son, I would be proud of him.
Look,
Yeah. Good.
Don't get me wrong, I am proud of Amani's effort, okay? I'm very proud of him, and I appreciate the actions that he's taken. But what I want Amani to do is to learn how to do things right so people will respect him.
You mean so that people will respect you? You know that teachers and other parents will be judging you in some way, and by the way your child looks and behaves.
It's important for parents to take pride in their child's accomplishments, but the child also needs to feel pride in what he's able to do.
What other choices did Russell have, and what could he have done?
He could have let Amani go to school just like he was.
No. Then the other kids, then they're laughing at Amani, right? I mean, we all know how cruel kids can be, right? And then the kid's self-esteem is boom, it's right out the window.
That's part of growing up, man.
Yeah, well, let's hurt the kids, right? That's what we want to do. The kids, well, no, the kid's self-esteem.
Hold on, let's see what our expert has to say. Go ahead.
Well, it's true. The other children might have given Amani a hard time. But on the other hand, by allowing Amani to go to school as he was, Russell would have been showing appreciation for the child's effort and thereby encouraging his sense of initiative.
Right. So what else? What other choices did Russell have?
You fix the kids' clothes, right? You go, look, this isn't too perfect, but you know what? We're going to practice later, like on Saturday or something. We'll make it better. We'll fix it. We'll practice.
That misses the point. If Russell fixes Amani's clothes, he will be letting him know that, the clothes were wrong.
Come on. No. Okay, it's only clothes, all right? It's only clothes. And practicing is a good idea. You know why? Because the kid, he's not pressured. Russell's not pressured. And then the kid learns at his own pace.
Is it a good idea, Eileen? Practice?
Oh, yes. Practicing at another time is a very good idea. This will allow the child to develop at his own speed a sense of mastery and confidence in his ability to dress himself.
Why doesn't Russell let Armani figure out how to get dressed on his own? When people figure things out on their own, then they remember it. If you send him to his room and then just let him figure it out and don't help him, then maybe that's how he'll learn.
Well, hold on.
No, I mean, we all know how long it takes a kid. That's why I said to practice later. We're all coming down on Russell here, but the fact is the guy had a business meeting. There's a time factor here. The man's running a business.
Being a parent does mean you have to make sacrifices, that's true. But, you can't threaten your livelihood every time a kid needs to learn something. I mean, Russell had to be at an appointment. There was no choice in the matter. He didn't have time, right?
Children need to feel that they're important to their parents, but children also have to realize that parents have their own lives with needs and boundaries that must be respected.
Okay, are there any more thoughts from the audience before we do the review? Oh, done.
How about a compromise, Russell? I mean, you could praise Amani for trying to dress himself, and then he'd feel good about trying to dress himself, but you could tell him how to dress better. That way he'd learn how to dress better and still have some self-esteem.
Okay, I like that. I like that idea, but I was in a hurry.
If you just take a minute right then, it would save you a lot of time and headaches later. And like I said, it's for his self-esteem.
Is that a good idea?
Oh, yes, and I really agree with you. What you said is very important to remember. Before we review, I'd like to close with this thought. Keep in mind that working with a child is a process. Our goal as a parent is to reinforce the positive effort and not overemphasize the negative. Which of the following choices would help Russell build up Amani's self-esteem? A. Russell could encourage Amani for trying to dress himself and allow him to go to school as he is. B. Russell could send Amani to his room and tell him to fix himself up. Russell could wait as long as necessary for his son to change his clothes without any help. C. Russell could praise Amani for trying to dress himself and then help him put the clothes on properly. D. Russell could tell Amani that he'll practice dressing with him in the evening when there is no rush. A, C, and D are some of the positive choices Russell could have made. You may have additional good ideas as well. Letter B is not the best choice because Amani already tried to dress himself. Sending him to his room until he got it right would be a punishment. Also, being a working parent means you have certain responsibilities. Russell can't wait around all morning. Being a good parent does not mean sacrificing all of your needs. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. In situations with our children, we want to make choices that will help them develop a strong sense of self-esteem. Number 1, by positively responding to a child's self-initiated activity, parents can encourage a sense of initiative over a feeling of inferiority or inadequacy. Number 2, we must show appreciation for a child's constructive efforts. Acknowledge a child's attempts rather than the end result. Number 3, criticizing a child's constructive efforts communicates negativity towards independence, autonomy, and competency. Number 4, parents need to develop realistic expectations. Know your child. Know what he's capable of doing at his stage of development. Number 5, name-calling or putting a negative label on a child can damage the child's self-esteem. Russell, on this show, you have a chance to go back in time and do the scene over. Given what you've heard, would you like to try it again?
Sure. Let's go.
Let's watch Russell and see what he does differently.
Come on, son. We don't want you to be late for school or me to be late for work. Got a big meeting this morning. Amani. Nice try, son. I'm really proud of you for trying to dress yourself. Now, how can we fix that shirt? It's not tucked in. Can you do it? Or do you need some help?
I could do it, Dad.
All right. You look really sharp, son. That shirt looks much better.
Thanks, Dad.
Now, when I get home from work tonight, we'll take some time to practice, okay?
Okay, Dad.
Russell, how did you feel?
I feel really good about what happened, but more importantly, I think my son felt good.
Now we're going to see another scene involving parents and their child. What would you do if you were in this situation?
Mommy, Daddy, look at me. I dressed myself.
Wonderful, Max.
You look beautiful.
Come on, sit down and eat your breakfast.
Max looked very pretty, and she dressed herself very nicely. Think about what you have just seen and consider the following questions. How did Max's parents respond to her? What did Max want from her parents? What would you do in the same situation? How did Max's parents respond to their daughter?
They complimented her on how she looked.
Yeah, that was very nice. Okay.
They didn't pay attention to her. I mean, Max felt like they didn't even care about her.
That's also true.
Yeah, you know, he was reading the paper. He didn't even look up.
Not only that, Sharon was making breakfast and ignoring her too.
I mean, gee, what a tragedy, huh? Mommy was making breakfast. I mean, come on, huh? Is there something wrong with making breakfast?
No, there's nothing wrong with making breakfast. But is there anything wrong with taking a minute to genuinely speak to your child? Yeah. I mean, did you all see the look on Max's face? I mean, she knew that her parents wouldn't have the time to give her any kind of attention. And, you know, she went to a great deal of trouble to make herself look pretty, and she was ignored because of it. Thanks.
Good point.
They did compliment her, but you know, the words were empty. Max knew that. Children aren't dumb.
Right, Eileen?
What you're saying is that praise should be sincere. Max's parents could have taken a moment, look her in the eye, and then praise her for her initiative in getting herself dressed. We know that children do not benefit from false praise.
We weren't lying to Max. I mean, what both of us said was true.
Oh, I'm sure you really felt it, but did you look at Max before you said what you were feeling?
And the question is, how did Max feel?
I don't know how Max felt, but I think she felt sad. I mean, that's what it looked like. And I don't know, she ended up being ignored.
Sharon, Stephen, would you like to respond?
I work hard every day and run a business. I mean, I don't have a lot of time, especially in the morning before work. And I see Max after work and spend lots of time with her then. I mean, quality time.
Even when he's tired, he spends time with her. I mean, I work, but only part-time, and I'm there for her when she gets home from school. Well, that's when we've been practicing how to dress.
Yeah, and that's a great time to do it, too. When you're not being rushed, you know, you can just take your time. You can be patient with it, but you still need to start giving, you know, Max a little more up.
But you know what? Max has to learn that the world doesn't just stop because she wants it to. Come on, you guys. In the real world, people don't always do what you want them to do. I mean, they don't always pay attention.
Sharon, that's a good point, but let's hear what Russell has to say, the rest of what Russell has to say.
Yeah. What I'm just trying to say is, and I'm just learning this now, but even though sometimes when you get a little rushed, you know, it's best to just go ahead and take that minute with your child, you know, right then, especially if he or she has taken the initiative to do something positive. You know, that way you just let them know that you appreciate the efforts that they're trying to make.
Good.
Frankly, I think Sharon and Stephen did nothing wrong. I mean, they were acting like normal parents. And you know, you don't always have endless time, any time of the day to focus on your child. I mean, you know, they said not something nice to her. She should appreciate that.
Hold on, I'll be back to you.
I know we didn't talk about this, but shouldn't Steve and Sharon have complimented Max right then and there for dressing herself? I mean, all they did was give empty praises, talking about, you're so beautiful and that's so pretty. I mean, what's that about?
That's a good point. Eileen?
Yes, it's an important idea. When we want to express praise, we should be specific and focus on the behavior. So if a child paints a picture, for instance, I wouldn't want to say, oh, you're so wonderful. It really doesn't have much meaning in this situation. Instead, I think I'd say something like, oh, I really like that painting and the colors you used, and I can see you worked really hard on that. In this way, the child would be less likely to think her self-worth depended on how well she paints, but her efforts have been appreciated and acknowledged, and that is what will be important to her.
Now, what are some of the other things that Sharon and Stephen could have done?
Now, wait a minute. Everyone keeps talking about how important praise is. And my parents hardly ever said anything. They were quiet, unless I did something wrong or didn't score well in an exam.
My parents were the same way, and you know, I knew what was expected of me. If I screwed up, you know, they let me know.
My parents gave me a lot of praise, and I think it's what made me an adult with a positive outlook.
Eileen, what do you think?
Well, we need to remember that parents are different, and there are many ways to raise children successfully. Now, let's review what we've talked about. Which of the following choices would be appropriate for Sharon and Stephen? Think about how these choices would help Max's self-esteem. A, they could take a minute to focus on Max and sincerely praise her for the initiative she took to dress herself. B, do nothing differently. C, they could praise Max specifically for how she dressed herself instead of telling her in general that she is wonderful and beautiful. A and C are good choices for Max's parents. You may have additional good ideas as well. Letter B is not the best choice because Max tried to do something positive, but she did not receive sincere recognition and may not be motivated to develop independence. Let's summarize some of the key ideas from this section. Number 1, it is important to acknowledge and praise a child's initiative to do something constructive. Number 2, make sure that you give sincere praise, not thoughtless or false praise. Number 3, rather than tell a child she is wonderful, praise the specific behavior. Sharon, Stephen, would you like to go back and relive the scene?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's see what this couple has learned.
Mommy, Daddy, look at me, I dressed myself.
You did such a good job dressing by yourself.
You look beautiful, and you did this all by yourself?
Mm-hmm.
Let's sit down and eat your breakfast. Come on.
Sharon, Stephen, how did you feel?
I feel much better. It didn't take that long to give a little attention to Max, and I could see how important it was to her to have us pay attention.
Yeah, I agree. It was so easy to change how we acted when we thought about it. It's just that sometimes we get so busy that we don't see things from the child's point of view.
Let's review the many ideas we've learned today. Number 1, be positive. Number 2, show appreciation. Number 3, avoid negative comments. Number 4, have realistic expectations. Number 5, avoid name calling. Number 6, recognize the child's effort. Number 7, give sincere praise. Number 8, praise specific actions. These 8 points can help you increase the self-esteem of your children. Try to keep these points in mind when you make choices. An excellent way to implement these behaviors with your children is to keep a daily journal. Write down how you help your child build up his or her self-esteem. Also, write down how your child responds to what you do.
We hope that this video will help you with your own children, and we look forward to working with you again in our next episode of The Now and Future Parent.